Okay guys, Dane and Brian from Revo PT, back with another video. We want to talk about baseline measures for off-season training, specifically for mountain bikers.
So one of the things we really want mountain bikers to have is a very straight thoracic spine or mid-back and enough shoulder flexion. So a couple ways to assess this on your own. We're going to have Dane turn. First thing we're going to do, can't he lift his arms up all the way so his biceps are at his ears or just slightly behind? At the same time, come back down. We're going to have him go up and then get a little extension through his mid-back. You should have extension through your mid-back so your hips are just slightly forward from your toes. Come back. If he can do that, or if you can do that, then you should have adequate enough range of motion in both your shoulders and your mid-back. If you notice that you cannot get there, here's a couple tips to improve that. The first one is a T-spine extension, mobilization. We're going to use a bench. This is going to help that shoulder range as well as that mid-back. So what Dave's going to do is sit his butt back towards his heels, push his chest towards the ground, and then bend his elbows towards his shoulders. And he's going to come back up and down. You're going to pulse in and out of this about 10 times. You should feel this right between the shoulder blades. Come back up. The next one, we want that T-spine to have not only extension, but rotation. So a great way to assess rotation is with feet together. You're going to face a mirror. You're going to rotate as far as you can to the right. If you can see that back shoulder blade, it's enough rotation. Then you're going to do the same thing, repeat on the opposite side. You'll find that most of you have more rotation one to the other. I would do that 3-4 times just to assess that. How to fix that, we're going to go back onto the floor, hands and knees, and place one hand behind your neck, and you're going to rotate up, looking up towards that elbow, towards the ceiling, and then back down. And again, you're going to go about 10 behind the neck. That's going to get your upper thoracic. To get your lower thoracic, you're going to take your hands behind the small of your back. You're going to rotate and look up and down, all right? So you're going to do that about 10 times again. And you're going to repeat that on both sides to make sure that you have symmetrical rotation on both sides.
Hey guys, so we looked at some of the stuff in the upper extremity that we want to talk about. Now we want to talk about hip down. So for most cyclists, we want to be looking at hip extension as a huge piece of the puzzle as far as getting proper glute activation and just being comfortable with a lot of time on the bike. So Brian's going to get down into a kneeling position. So hip extension is when the femur is going behind you. So we're adding in a little component of knee flexion here as well. So Brian's going to feel some quad stretch. But what we're really looking for is hip joint center to knee joint center. If Brian kind of moves his hips forward, he'll be going into hip extension. The biggest missing link with this is activating the glute or tucking your tail. We want a neutral pelvis while we're doing this stretch. So if at home you're doing a test of this on yourself, you can either record it or do it in a mirror. Most folks are going to get stuck at that 0 to 5 degree of hip extension range. That's par for the course. Our goal is to get you into the 10 to 15 degree range with no arching in that low back. So if you're feeling like you're restricted here, most cyclists are, you can get a band, an old bike tube will also do it. Brian's going to put that on his leg right up by the butt. Knee down, heel up again. That's going to give a little bit of pulling right here. So we want to feel a stretch at the top of the hip. And that's perfect. Brian's chest is up, tail is tucked. And this is going to be a low load, long duration stretch. Start with an easy stretch for 2 minutes a day on each side and see what kind of gains you get. So, next we're going to talk about some hip flexion stuff. So, Brian's going to get into a kneeling position. So hip flexion is this direction. A lot of times we're going to have problems with this at, say, the bottom of the squat in an attack position on the bike, causing us to rotate our pelvis in weird ways. So the goal here is that Brian's going to first be able to just get his hands down on the ground on the inside of the leg, and you may feel some stretching on the adductor or up here in the front of the hip. A great goal to progress is to be able to get the forearms down on the ground. Not everyone's going to be able to do this inside like so. You'll notice that Brian's also able to kind of push his knee out to the side to kind of get to those corners of the range of motion. So you're going to be abducting, slightly externally rotating your femur a little bit. If you're feeling restriction in any of these areas, this is something we want to pay attention to. So we're going to go to that end range, get close to a stressful feeling, and then hold on to that. Again, low intensity for long duration is what we're looking for. Okay, so another piece we want to be looking at is ankle dorsiflexion range. So dorsiflexion is this. You can think of that as like a runner's stretch. But when we're descending and braking, we want to be able to get those heels down, full range of motion. So most of us don't have that. So a great way to do that is just getting into a runner's stretch. So Brian's going to get into a runner's stretch. We're looking for 25 or so degrees here at the ankle. This may result in a calf stretch, but you may also feel some pinching here in the front of the ankle. So if you're having trouble getting to that full range or feeling any of those symptoms, we may want to mobilize that joint a little bit. So one way is with this band. Again, you can use a band like this or an old bike tube. It's going to be very low at the front of the ankle, pulling backward. Brian's going to kind of stabilize his foot on the ground. We don't want any side-to-side play at the foot and ankle. And he's going to pulse his knee forward, out over the toe, and slightly laterally. We'll see if this gets rid of any of that pinching. You probably won't feel very much calf stretch in this movement as we're kind of taking the calf out with the flex knee. But just starting with some small pulses here to try to gain a little bit extra mobility. So there's a few take-home pieces there for self-assessment, treatment, and then this is going to help you guide your off-season training as you're looking to make gains for next season.